Going into Miami GP this weekend, a race in which will be a second sprint race of the season. The Miami race will be one of the hybrid tracks on the calendar. You can call it a full street racing and you can call it open track. It has both, and Hard Rock Stadium is the main host of the Miami Grand Prix in Florida suburb. And one thing about the Miami International Autodrome is that it's located on a private ground on the Hard Rock Stadium. A lot of people have tried to bring races to Miami in the past, but they were unable to do that. But unfortunately, in 2022, we had first race in Miami, and since then we've had 4 races. First race in Miami was won by Max Verstappen, which tells us that 2 races have been won by Max Verstappen in Miami. Max Verstappen has most wins in Miami out of 4. The constructor with the most win in Miami is shared by both McLaren and Red Bull. The circuit length is 5.12 kilometers, that's about 3.363 miles, and a race length of 308.326 kilometers, that's about 191.582 miles. A 57 lap race. Last year, pole position Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri winning the race, Lando Norris second, and George Russell third. Lando Norris the fastest man on track last year. There are lots of tweaks that have come into these new regulations. Number 1, to make qualifying more interesting. 2, they're harvesting a whole lot of coming to it in which will be tested. But for me, because it's the next race, that is why we can say we would see some of these tweaks that have been made to the car or to the present racing work. But I don't think we are going to see most of it work because we are having just a 90 minutes FP1, then straight up we jump into the sprint qualifying, the sprint race, the main qualifying and the main race. So there are less time for teams to test their cars, especially teams that are bringing upgrades, and there are less time for FIA, even when they've extended it to a 90 minutes FP1, to really see the output of how the rules have changed. So I think it's going to be a very, very long Miami race for everybody, especially in the paddock, to understand. But going into the next race in Imola, we're going to see a lot of opportunities to test some of these new rules and the tweaks brought into racing. That being said, straight to the tire strategy for the 2026 Miami GP, we are having the C3 to C5. The C3 will be the hardest compound of tire, with the C5 will be the softest compound of tire, and we are predicting a one-stop strategy, especially with drivers running on medium or hard tires, in which they'll switch back. So from lap, they should be looking at lap 14 to 24 to switch back to any of the tires they will use to the end of the race. But predictability, we should be having a one-stop strategy. Some drivers might go on a 2-stop strategy just to give them, if they are going to be using the soft tires. But I think during the sprint race, we would see how the soft tires work, and also during the sprint qualifying, what types of rubbers will be used, the medium rubber and the soft rubber tires. So that should give us opportunity to learn and to understand how this should work. Now, the surface temperature of the track is quite abrasive, so the tire will be able to hold up well for long stint, which is crucial for the race. Overtaking difficulty, which would also make the tire on some cars not last long, because if some cars get into traffic, overtaking will be difficult. They'll be stuck behind others and they'll wear the tires early. So it's going to be a very funny one. Safety cars, not really popular in Miami, but it's going to be very vital for teams to know how to use safety cars, especially for the tire change stints. With the weather strategy, the weather prediction is looking like Friday, May 1st, looks very dry, but there are 5% chances of rain on Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. But we are going to be having temperatures going from 30 to 32 degrees, which is very high and also very great. So we are going to see a wonderful Miami race if it is dry, which will give us opportunity to see how this car perform very well. But if there is rain, we would see how it works, especially with this will be the first time this season, if there is rain, that we would see how the rain tires for this season works on this car. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the wet tires work. But that being said, what do I think of the Miami GP? I think Mercedes are still the favorite. They are bringing up the heat and they will make it very interesting. But you can't discount Red Bull that are bringing upgrades. They are bringing totally about half of the car, and they're also bringing the same rear wings, the Macarena rear wings that Ferrari are bringing, but their turns a different way. Their turns outside on a 160 degree, while Ferrari turns inside out on a 180 degrees turn. Ferrari also, they've updated their Macarena, so they're bringing in, the McLaren are bringing a full upgrade from what they said. A lot of teams are bringing upgrades. Mercedes too will be bringing upgrades to make their car faster, because they've heard every other person will be bringing upgrades, which will be very interesting to see whose upgrades work better. But in the last 3 races, we've seen Mercedes outclass everybody, and we've seen Kimi Antonelli really shine. He's really come to this season to tell us that he's not just a rookie. Now he's a full-fledged racer and is ready to battle it out with his teammate and show his teammate that he's not a small boy. He wants to really win championship. And to the McLaren boys, we know it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they come up from last season, in which we have them fighting for championship, and towards the end we saw how it panned out for them, one coming first, the other coming third, which was not favorable for Oscar Piastri, I think. So how they will come up with it. And the Ferrari boys, we are going to see how they are able to channel their inner energy and make this season work quite well. But the question still remains, these new upgrades to the rules, will it really work for the teams? Will it be a game changer? Until we get to Miami, we would know, but we are not certainly sure. Even the FIA are not certainly sure. They are trying to make it more racy, more interesting. We all know now that the cars will be more slower until 2027, in which they are looking at probably changing the rules from 50-50 to probably 70-30, which I've already said a long time ago. Or some people are still saying 60-40 or 65-35, but I think 70-30 is the best. They can go as low as 80-20 for the highs. I think it will give us much more opportunity. They harvest less. They can use the harvesting on overtakes on some places on the track in which they think they can control themselves. So I think all those opportunities will come in the race and make the race more interesting. But you cannot count the FIA out of all these things because they know what they are doing. But it's going to be a very interesting one in Miami, and following up in Canada on the 24th of May. After Miami, we are going to have a 3 weeks break. Then we come to Imola, then to Monaco. Then after Monaco, we are going to have teams quickly shouting, please let us go on Hado. The Ferrari engine, the Honda engine. Honda said they are bringing a new engine totally to Miami. So let's see what they bring. The Adjo will still work for them and also for Audi. So it's going to be an interesting one to see. If these guys upgrade, what are they bringing to make it more interesting? But I know it's going to be an interesting one because that will be the 6th race of the season in Monaco, and we already know the pecking order, the stacking order, and how the teams will be able to maximize opportunities they have through the year and make the year worthwhile. Up until Miami, the FP1, in which we're analyzing the upgrades that the teams have brought and how the upgrades have worked. I love you guys. Bye. Cheers.